Want to make sure my face is on the re-edited version from now on. Guys. That's my only stipulation.
Good evening, everyone. It's a double whammy week. Unloaded Mag NUFC, and we have a fully loaded transfer show that is a fantastic double. And I'm delighted to have our guest on tonight. But first and foremost, Daz, Richie, how are you?
Not too bad, Pete. All good. All good. I got my desk sorted. Just need to sort everything else out now. So step by step, I'm nearly ready for the transfer deadline day.
Step by step. Richie, how are you?
Plodding, mate, as per.
Yeah. Plodding along. And we, as a channel, are plodding along. Fantastic show last night where we had a reaction to all that was going on with Joao Pedro. Still not confirmed yet. And I'm sure we'll get on to our guest about that very, very shortly. But look, let's get into it. Lots to talk about in terms of Newcastle transfers. And we are delighted to welcome in Graeme Bailey from 90min.com. So welcome in, Graeme. How are you?
Great, guys. Thanks for having me back.
Evening, Graeme. All right, mate.
I'm doing good.
We really, really enjoyed our chat a few weeks ago, when you come and join us, Graeme. And I really appreciate you taking the time today. We slightly changed when you were coming on. And yeah, we appreciate you taking the time to be able to come and join us and talk all things Newcastle United, or should I say United? You have been on the transfer talk referring to Newcastle as the United because we are, or we were, then United at the highest point of the Premier League. Are you still referring to us as United, or has that slightly changed?
No, well, obviously, the Talking Transfers pod I do with a few colleagues at 90min. We got a little bet on that I had Newcastle as the highest finishing United this season. I did back that up by putting them sixth in my rankings. I did have them sixth in my Premier League predictions. So some of those Newcastle fans who think I'm anti-Newcastle, I wouldn't put you sixth if I was anti-Newcastle. And so, yeah, I had you as a high-ranking United because my colleagues are West Ham and Manchester United fans. So they always refer to Manchester United, but you've got to earn it. But obviously, so did Newcastle, and at the moment it's Leeds.
Yeah, it is Leeds. Hopefully not for now, not for too long. But for now, as Daz says. But I like that you're calling it out. You're not just having United, the United as seen as Manchester United. It is actually that team that is earning it. So brilliant stuff. Look, there's only one place to start. Joao Pedro. Now, look, we talked about this last night with some fantastic Watford fans from Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast that came and joined myself and Daz to talk about the reaction of all the news running through. Just a really quick run through on the main man at the moment, the talking point of our transfer business. So, as we said last night, TalkSport initially announced the deal. Then we had the here we go from Fabrizio Romano saying the deal's done. Craig Hope comes out and pours a little bit of cold water saying nothing's really changed. Then we had also from Mail Sport, Sammy come out and say that the deal was close. Jason Burt's come out and said the deal's not been agreed yet. We needed to up the bid. And Luke Edwards has made a point of saying today, now, that there has been no progress and the deal is stuck where it was 24 hours ago. Now, just recently, in the last hour or so, there's been some further confirmation from Fabrizio Romano in that actually he said on his podcast today that that the deal has been agreed, but they are waiting. They are just waiting for the contracts to be official in order to announce the deal as official. Now, that's kind of where we are at in terms of that. Some people are siding with all different views and opinions on what's going on with Joao Pedro. Graeme, where do you sit on this? What do you know? How do you think this is going to play out?
I've just posted my story on Joao Pedro a few seconds ago, guys, so they can take that in. Yeah, from my understanding, from both ends, from what I'm hearing, talks are continuing. Newcastle, they've got up to 30 million. Watford, if we remember back to a few weeks ago, wanted 35. The standing firm. From I'm being told, Newcastle end it's not a done deal yet. They don't believe it is a done deal. They are confident. You know, they're not confident. Otherwise, they'd have pulled out ages ago. There is a confidence there. I wouldn't say 100%, but you know, I'm thinking 60, 70%. This is likely to get done. However, as I was saying to you guys earlier, off pod, the longer this deal goes on, it does allow others to come and visit the situation. And in the piece I've done, not only Everton, but I do understand the likes of Forest, Leicester, Wolves, Leeds, all keeping tabs on the situation, which isn't a huge surprise. You know, Pedro, he's attainable. It's at a price that most Premier League clubs could afford. To deal, it can be done quickly. So, yeah, keep an eye on it. But Newcastle very much in pole position. I'd say 70% done from what I'm being told. And Newcastle are fairly confident to get this done.
Excellent. Some positive news there for all the Newcastle United fans in the chat and watching live at the moment. Now, look, from your perspective, you mentioned the likes of Leicester, Everton, Forest. There's a number of clubs now that are keeping tabs on the Joao Pedro situation. Do you think it's because of the news and the kind of media presence that is generated on the back of Newcastle being interested? Has it made teams kind of look a little bit closer and go, actually, you don't look like a bad player? What do you think?
Well, yeah, it is that, Pete. But it's obviously, you know, agents work with journalists all the time. I get plenty of phone calls saying, can you put this news out there? Yes, Newcastle would want to be keeping this quiet. They wouldn't want anyone to know, but Pedro's agents, Watford, they want it out there. Why wouldn't they? You know, it's very few transfer stories going to the radar now, unless the buying club are in a very strong position. You know, if you're Pedro's agent, you're not doing your job unless you're letting people know what the situation is. You know, if he signs for Newcastle and then Everton say, "Oh, well, he could have given you double that wages and stuff," you know, it's how the transfer world works. In a lot of cases, that they have to let everyone know. And that is the situation. I think I have been told that Pedro does want to move to Tyneside. It's not unsurprising. But, you know, at the same time, he's probably thinking, well, yeah, he'd probably take a move to Wolves. He'd probably take a move to Everton as well. He wants to be in the Premier League, doesn't he? So, yeah, that's where we are on that one. That it is in Pedro's cause to get it out there that Newcastle are talking to him.
Nah, I think that's a fair point, Richie. We didn't get an opportunity to get your kind of thoughts on the madness that was the last 24 hours of all the ups and downs with the has he signed, hasn't he, has it been confirmed? You know, where do you sit on this at the moment? Do you think it's been confirmed, as Fabrizio Romano has said, in that they've shook hands and they're just waiting for official confirmation? Or are you of the mindset, like many others in the media world have mentioned, that it's not quite done yet? Graham's talked about it being 70% done from what he's heard himself.
I think, and obviously we had this chat yesterday in our WhatsApp chat, and I think it goes to what like the majority of us said. Fabrizio Romano has got one outstanding reputation within the journalistic side of things and breaking transfer news and stuff like that. So for him to put his neck out and say it's done, for me, would mean it's done. Perhaps he's got a bit more of the insights. We do know he's actually, you know, good friends with the Pozzo family, obviously, who run Watford, also run Udinese as well, which is a little bit of a connection you might cover later on, Pete. That was something on Twitter. There was very, very interesting transfer for Watford you might bring up later on. But yeah, it's for me, especially with there's mixed sources. TalkSport, you mentioned last night. Some might think it's TalkSport. For me, I still think I'd still class TalkSport and Sky Sports being very similar under the umbrella type thing. So if they announced it, and obviously then there was another bid sent from Sky today. So I still think the deal's going to go through. I just think perhaps there's different journalists are getting drip fed different things at this moment in time.
No, it's a really difficult situation. And look, I don't know whether you felt this, Graeme, yourself, obviously reporting on all things sort of Newcastle, but there seems to be this reoccurring theme that, now they're under new ownership, now that they've got the likes of Dan Ashworth in at the club, that there's a lot less information coming out from the club. Are you kind of finding that on deals with Newcastle?
Not me personally, no. I think we've all got our different sources. Newcastle are in a situation where they have 3 lots of owners, for instance. And if you're talking to one of those people, then you're getting information. You get information from Eddie Howe, Steve Nixon. Newcastle, there's a lot of avenues into the club. I'll say that. Very professional still, but it's how different connections go with people at clubs, from up high, down below. You can't keep it all in one place. Yes, who has the final say? It is probably Dan Ashworth at the minute with Amanda, but obviously Piff in the end had the first say. So, and as I say, it's impossible to keep things from coming out if it's the players letting out as well. And obviously we talk about Fabrizio. Obviously, I don't doubt his information. A lot with other guys, because especially with a club like Newcastle and Watford as well, there are a lot of avenues who you can talk to. So if you are talking to an official source, then nobody can deny that. And I think you see that a lot with Newcastle, especially North East journals. We don't tend to rubbish each other because not that we know where it's coming from, but there's a chance it is coming from somewhere official.
Yeah. And that's more than fair. Daz, have you got your Brazil flag out yet to welcome in Joao Pedro to join the Samba boys?
Not yet, but I'm thinking of get one for the World Cup, because I'm all Brazil for the World Cup, especially when they go play you guys in the final. But no, you want 2 quick things. Just a shout out to Roy. Thanks for the donation, Roy. As always, super sticker, good man. And also thanks to Jordy 2 for life, and thanks for your comments. The best show on YouTube. Nice one. We've got a few questions coming in as well, but yeah, I think it'll probably link in with where you're going, Pete.
Yeah. Look, in your opinion, do you think he'll make that move to Newcastle? Graeme said 70% done. Are you thinking? What's your mindset now? 24 hours on since we did our show with the Watford boys.
Yeah, well, I had this poster created for about a week and a half, and I was dying to get it out. So, we did the show last night. I think it's a done deal. It's just a matter of maybe Watford looking around. And I think it's a bit of a joke about Everton. Like, if you had a choice, Everton or Newcastle, who are you going to pick there? Look at the Everton on the up. It's going to take a while for Everton to get anywhere near where Newcastle are going, if ever. So it's a no-brainer, and the Brazilians there already. So you imagine he would slot in nicely. Yes, and I can speak Portuguese as well. Yes, that's right, David. I'm trying to tempt Lucas Paqueta to Newcastle, as is everybody else.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll get onto him in a second. An interesting one, Graeme. I throw this at you. This was put out on Sunday from Ryan Taylor, and he mentioned about Newcastle potentially negotiating a double deal with Watford, not just for Joao Pedro, but also Ismail Assar. Like, do you see that one as a realistic target for Newcastle United?
I have thought about that in the summer. I haven't really heard anything from the club on that, and I do suspect that Eddie Howe knows all about Ismail Assar. I'm not sure that one, is on the agenda. A lot of clubs were in for Ismail Assar and still are. Villa agreed a fee, but I think Ismail Assar's representatives were looking at the groundwork. I think he would suit Newcastle, probably more so than Pedro, really, in my opinion. But I think he is on Newcastle's list, but quite far down. I think they're looking at a few others before him, and seemingly, that one he's been available for a lot of the summer for a certain fee, and we haven't really seen Newcastle push on for him strongly, and that's probably because others who potential targets are ahead of him.
Richie, surely if we were looking at Ismail Sarr, we'd have signed him by now. He's been available all summer effectively, and not for a huge fee. I think did Villa agree a fee of around 25 million for him to then the deal then collapse? Like, is that one a little bit far fetched? Apparently, like with those as a maybe double deal.
Yeah, I can't see it being a double deal. I think there's, as we said, we've got a list of players that we're working down, and he hasn't really been, in the discussion. Really, it's not to say he's never been on the list. Do you know what I mean? And being ruled out or anything like that. I think we've looked at wide players, and there's another one that's been brought up again on Twitter, on the show, in the chat several times as well, which I know it's been brought up tonight again. So we've started, and no doubt we'll see if we can get to a discussion towards the end of it. But I just see there's other potential targets in that position. I'm not saying that as Graeme said, it could be something he's thought about in the summer. It could be something that happens last minute. But I feel as though it's one that is further down the pecking order, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Cheers to George as well for the donation. Thanks very much, George. Always supporting the channel as well. And he says put it to the Lucas Paqueta Fund. My Portuguese lessons. There we go.
Love it, George. Thank you for your contributions always. Really, really do appreciate that. And everyone that's contributed already tonight. It's been a fantastic, show of support, certainly the last few weeks with all the contributions to the channel. It does make a massive difference to us. And it's important that we do, we all have our thanks to you for that, because you do make a massive difference to Loading Mag NUFC. An interesting
just before you move on, I just wanted to touch on Paul Shank's question he's just put on, because obviously with Graeme falling into that category, he might be able to comment more on that. Just about like local journalists aren't really getting much out of the club now since Dan Ashworth's come in. There doesn't seem to be as many leaks. Would you agree with that, Graeme? Because obviously you're a local journalist yourself. You might still have some sources. I'm not saying obviously, you can't reveal who they are or where they are in the club or whatever. But have you found it harder? Is it more like getting blood out of a stone now?
Not necessarily. No. I know my own personal relationship pretty good with the club. From working with a few people there. No, I wouldn't say that, but I think it's the fact that we've known for quite a while the plan, so I don't think there's anything going to come from left field so much now. We especially towards the end window, we know possibly three. We know creative midfielder, wide right striker. I don't think anything's going to jump out at us. It'd be a major surprise if they came out and signed a new left back or something like that. That is my understanding, and that isn't the case. If someone did. No, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was a full-on tap leaking everything out before. It's a well-run club, and sources. There's no club where you don't have sources, or you try to get sources. And I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think it's a well-run club, and they're very professional. If you ask them something, they will tell you. You will confirm, or you can work with them. So no, I don't think it's any harder. I think it's actually. More pleasure. It's definitely more pleasurable to work with Newcastle at the minute. I would say that.
Okay, I think we've already got loads of questions already in ready and locked for Graeme. So let's fire away before we look at one or two other transfers and a few other bits of detail. Thank you, Russell, for your £4.49 donation. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate that. Some interesting ones in there already. So. That's far away.
Okay, let me see, Graeme. I suppose there's one or two questions around Miggy to Everton. That's kind of a topic that's come up here. Is that something you've heard yourself, Graeme, or your thoughts on that one?
Heard it early in the summer that obviously he was a bit unsettled. He was looking possibility for a move. Wasn't he interested at the time? I don't believe unless it'd take a massive shift for Newcastle to be willing to let him go. Maybe a decent offer. He's I think he's had an indifferent start to the season. Obviously, very good against Man City, but very poor in the previous 2 games. Yeah, I don't see Newcastle reducing the squad at the minute. They still want if they got the 3 forwards in, they might contemplate it if it was a good enough offer. But no, I don't think there's anything. I think it's people checking on him. No, I don't see Newcastle letting Almiron out this month unless, if we're going to get Paqueta, Pedro and, Dieng or someone like that. If we get them 3 players in, possible. Never say never in this window.
Yeah. Then there's 2 questions really around Callum Wilson. And I don't know, has there been any other update on Callum Wilson's injury or why I know he was taken off as a kind of precautionary measure, but they were sending him for scans. But there's kind of the gist of the questions are, should we kind of be going for, instead of a backup for Wilson or someone to come off from the bench, should we be going if it's a long-term kind of injury or even any kind of period of time, should we be going for even someone to compete with them and potentially take the spot? That's really the question. Any thoughts on that? Anyone?
Yeah. Well, I said, guys, the number 1 target all summer was Calvert-Lewin. He hasn't been mentioned recently because of his injury. If he was available, it wouldn't surprise me if Newcastle went back in for him before the window shut. I think they would ideally like someone to challenge Wilson. Of course you would. You don't want, at the moment, he turns up. If he's 60% fit, he's starting every game, isn't he? So I think they do need that extra backup. That's why I like Joao Pedro. I said he's got a high ceiling. Does he have enough in him to challenge Callum Wilson? No. So I think, but it's easier said than done, guys, isn't it? I think Newcastle are waiting for this loan market to produce something. Who becomes available from Chelsea? I think ideally they'd love to take Gallagher, but then again, so would half the Premier League. Half of them have asked Chelsea to be kept informed. Armando Broja, possibility. Christian Pulisic, a real possibility as well on loan. So, and let's remember they've only got this one loan they can do from Chelsea. So, it's a big consideration this year. You got to use this loan slot wisely. So yeah, but back to the original question. Yeah, I think they should sign someone equal to him to challenge him, whether they will or not. There's still what we got 9 days still left, so still an exciting few days left. I wouldn't rule anything out just yet.
Great. One name. Sorry, Richard. It's just linked into this. It's one name that we were talking about in the last couple of weeks, and it's gone quiet now. Is Ramos from Benfica? Now I just checked. He is starting in the second leg of the Champions League qualifier. And there was talk that okay, because they're 2-0 up, but if they qualify, which they probably should because they're at home tonight, they may look to sell him because they'll be in the Champions League. The money will be guaranteed, so that might free him up. So, have you heard anything else about that name, or because it was talk then we were linked to him first, and then there was talk of Wolves again because he's Portuguese, so automatically has to go to Wolves. But any more talk about him?
It's gone quiet on that front. Southampton inquired. From my understanding, it was only an inquiry from Newcastle and talks with the player and the agent. They like him. I think there's a few issues with him. Why does Roger Schmidt want him out? And I think a few of the English clubs are looking at that situation. Seems a little bit convenient. He was meant to be Nunez's replacement in the first place. He's had his CV isn't fantastic. He's had a good start to this season, but does that warrant a £30 million transfer? I'm not so sure. I think Newcastle, I don't see them paying 30 for him. But yeah, he's a talent again. But is he going to come in and challenge Wilson? Possibly. After 6 months, it's going to take time to settle. But he's definitely on the list. But I don't think it ever got to that point of the deal being too close.
Okay. Sorry, Richie, you were going to come.
No, it was just because Graeme had mentioned Chelsea again, and there's obviously a lot of rumours about Chelsea. Once they've brought a couple in, like possibly Aubameyang and the ones from Barcelona, that's going to start the domino effect for the rest of the window. Now, last week we discussed that if we were to say to sign 2 players from Chelsea, 1 permanent and 1 loan, who would they be? Now we discussed knowing what Newcastle need out of those 4. The 4 potential names that are being leaked that could be available. Who do you think would be the best fit for Newcastle, and which way around would you do it? Which one would be permanent? Which one would be the loan?
Obviously, I've got Hudson-Odoi in that conversation as well, who has been discussed at Newcastle. You know, in ideal, you might do, I'd say, between the, you could fill all the 3 spots from Chelsea, couldn't you, with a Brozier, Gallagher, and then Hudson-Odoi or Pulisic. So you could fill all the slots that Newcastle want to fill. I think if you could get Gallagher, you would. Superstar, really is fantastic, but he does have so many of the Premier League in for him, and I suspect, better the devil you know, he may end up back at Palace if he was to become available on loan. I don't think he will be. I don't think he'll be made available. So then you've got maybe Brozier as a striker, and then one of the wingers. I think Brozier would be the easiest to do permanently. Hudson-Odoi is on huge money. He's on twice what Kieran Trippier's on at the minute. He's on huge money because he got that deal, but when the Bayern Munich situation went cold. I think Hudson-Odoi or Pulisic would be great captures for Newcastle. I think them two playing regularly would be fantastic, and an upgrade on St. Maximin and Almiron, no doubt about that for me. So Brozier permanent, and then one of the other two on loan, I would say, Rich, to answer your question.
No, well.
Just to update on that, there's been some noise tonight that Everton have actually asked for Brozier as part of any deal for Anthony Gordon. They would like him on loan. So that's something that's just come out in the last 15 or 20 minutes.
There's a lot of options for Everton. They like Gilmore. They like Ross Barkley.
Gallagher was another one as well.
They like Trevor Chalobah. Yeah, Gallagher's not going with them. They like Chalobah as well. So there's a lot of options there. A lot of dominoes at Chelsea to fall. Although Gordon one does look likely, they might take. Even if they only take one on loan, there's certainly a few deals to be had there. Frank Lampard knows them well, so yeah, he will want to take 1 or 2 for sure.
Let's stick with the Chelsea theme right now, and let's go back to Gallagher because we were having an interesting chat before we started. You, myself, and Daz about the potential of Gallagher, and we always get certain players, particularly those from Chelsea, who we like, that don't tend to want to come too far north. And it's almost as if it could well be the same for 1 or 2. Ruben Loftus-Cheek was one that we really wanted under Rafa Benitez. Didn't want to come too far north, ended up going to Palace. We had even before then, Tammy Abrahams, Rafa really wanted as well. Was desperate to get him. A little bit that Ashley and Charlie didn't make the deal happen. Weren't willing to pay the fee. He ended up going to Swansea. Could this be a similar thing with the likes of Conor Gallagher, and that he may want to just stay local and stay in London?
I'm not so sure. And again, I wouldn't trust Rafa when it comes to picking strikers. Look at Tony Mitrovic at the minute, for example. You never know with these players. I think Newcastle's an attractive city. They know all about it. I don't think Conor Gallagher's gone to West Brom in Birmingham. I don't think that would be an issue. I just think with him, if he does become available on loan, I would suspect he may head back to Palace, where he became an England international player of the year. And and let's not forget, Gallagher needs to be playing now to get to the World Cup.
Yeah.
So I think that would play into his thinking, where he can go and slot straight back into Palace, where he got his England call up in the first place. So I think they have a huge advantage over every other club. I'm not just talking Newcastle, I'm talking whoever else wants him. The Wolves is virtually every club apart from the top 4 want Conor Gallagher. So it'd be a huge ask for Newcastle. And I think Conor Gallagher, for that midfield playmaker role, he's not top of Newcastle's list.
Personally, the one, if we were going to get any from Chelsea, personally, the one that I would want is Christian Pulisic. Supremely talented, young. We had the conversation last week, still only 23 years old, but feels like he's been around for years and years and years, playing at the highest level. There was talk that Manchester United were interested. I know you talked about that on your podcast as well. What are the chances of Newcastle potentially getting that deal? Are we in the race for that, or is it purely, the likes of Manchester United and sort of like the more reputable clubs at this point in time?
I think you're right. A colleague of mine, 90 Men, Chris Smith, did a piece. Actually, he's in close contact with Pulisic's camp. It wouldn't be easy. He's on a lot of money. I think it'd be easier for Newcastle to do it than United because Chelsea would rather send him to Newcastle than Manchester United. It's an interesting one. I think, and again, another World Cup player who wants to be playing regularly. And I think it's an interesting prospect. For me, I think Hudson-Odoi would be the one I went for because I think, again, his ceiling is just so much higher. He's his trajectory now. He should be one of England's top players. He should be starting for England every single game. If you think about that from that Bayern Munich interest and where he was, and it just hasn't happened for him. But yeah, but I definitely think if Newcastle can get one of these players in on loan from Chelsea, that does open up the avenue, opens up the funds as well to get these other two deals done prospectively. So I keep an eye on them. Hudson-Odoi is an interesting one. I don't think he's limited to just staying down south either, but it's one Newcastle are working on. And they've spoken at Chelsea at length about a number of players. So we'll have to see how that one progresses. But I think Chelsea, as you say, when they get Aubameyang done, Anthony Gordon, we think will be done soon as well. Fofana will be done. And once they get those done, I think it'll make life easier for Newcastle and the other teams who want these loan players out.
Interesting. Gaza, any more questions in the chat? I have questions in for those that are listening right now. Get your questions in for Graeme and for the rest of us. Stick your questions in. Fire those questions to Graeme. I can see one or two already popping in right now.
Exactly. There's three here connected, and I keep them together, and they're all about Diaby. So Neil, Diaby now unhappy at Leverkusen. Any chance we'll go back in for him? Jordy Toon for life. Diaby now wants to move. Are we still interested in signing them? Maybe it's because the team are bottom of the league. And for Simon, Diaby doing a U-turn is interested in moving now as Leverkusen have lost the first 3 games and are also out of the cup already this season. So is that when you could see moving?
If he's available, then clearly Newcastle will be interested. He's a player that Newcastle love, and rightfully so. For me, one of the under the radar star players in Europe. This boy is special. He really is. And we know Newcastle tried to get him early in the summer. Leverkusen stood firm. I know a scout who watched him against Dortmund in that defeat. He messaged me saying, the boy Diaby was unreal. He was the best player on the pitch by a million miles. Really special talent. But his price tag, at this point, I think if Newcastle were going to get Diaby, I think it was a bit early in the window when they tried, when he was a bit under the radar, people weren't aware. And the player does have an interest in coming to Newcastle. Newcastle weren't going into this blind. They knew there was an interest in the player to come to Tyneside. Similar to Ekiteke, who did have an interest at times. Obviously, that went by the wayside, but there was an interest there, and there was a small window to get that done. And obviously, they missed it, and it didn't happen. Diaby, I think the window to get him was probably a bit early in the window, but as I said, guys, you never know. Newcastle will, if he has changed his stance, and it wasn't Diaby turning down Newcastle before, it was between the clubs. It was the fee, He had to come out and say he's happy. Players have to come out and say a lot of things. Look at the young situation at Barcelona at the minute. He's not coming out slagging off Barcelona when he has every right in the world to do so. He's not doing it. He's staying professional. So I think if there's a chink in Bayer Leverkusen's armour, Newcastle will be interested. And it'll be interesting to see how that one develops. I haven't had any indication yet that Leverkusen are willing to do so.
Okay.
Dad, just before you go on, because I think it's a really interesting point that you with the question that you asked us about Moussa Diaby, and it kind of brings in with the likes of James Maddison as well, because we've talked about James Maddison before, and he's a player that we've had 2 bids rejected for from Leicester City, and Graeme, look, you've already talked about tonight with regards to your understanding of Leicester's situation with some of those players. We talked about Yuri Tillemans as well, who was linked with Newcastle in the summer earlier on. The question I've got for you is that in that discussion that we had earlier on with Miguel Almiron, and you mentioned that you don't think that he'll leave the club, could that be that Miguel Almiron leaves the club to ensure that maybe we then have the additional funds to go out and get someone like a Moussa Diaby or a James Maddison before the end of the window.
Yeah, if you could get a Madison or Diaby with Almiron going the other way, I'm sure quite a few fans would give him a piggyback to the airport. But it's an interesting one. Maddison again is down to the fee. I don't think it's because Newcastle couldn't afford it, but they are sticking to their principles at the minute. You know, they don't want to even flirt with FFP too much. They don't want to give the Premier League an excuse to come down on them, which again is not fair. But that's just, they know the Premier League are keeping a very close eye on them. And Maddison, you know, Newcastle did go in for him. I believe that was Maddison. How much interest did he have in coming to Newcastle? I'm not 100% that he was committed to that move. I think he was looking for a deal. I think he's one player I think who would rather move down south to London, if I'm being honest. And yeah, he's a wonderful player, and he would fit into this midfield, as we know. But again, a player we haven't talked about yet. I still think Lucas Paquette would be a better fit.
Interesting.
Right, maybe we'll move to another question and link it. Yeah, there's two here linked. Well, first I'll go one that's slightly left field. Manu Kone, who was linked in one of the links there this week as well. Young player, I think he's French or he's dual citizenship, but yeah, that's him there. He reminds me of Taribo West when I saw him first. Just that was the hairstyle of Taribo West back in the day.
Special hair.
Yeah, someone who I wanted to come to Newcastle at one stage. I think it was on free transfers, or maybe that was his football manager. But yeah, any thoughts on him? Anyone who wants to know about him?
I must admit, he hasn't come on my radar. I must admit. You know, Newcastle scouts are scouring Europe. I think he was linked in the Cape, so there's probably something in there somewhere, you know, about scouts watching him, and Newcastle Scouting Network is doing a good job at the moment. So it wouldn't surprise me if they have watched him. Clearly,
okay.
Yeah, Manu Kone is an interesting one because he hasn't, you know, he's obviously he came from Toulouse to Mönchengladbach. He's had a good period of time. I think he was on loan last season at Toulouse and played really, really well. In my opinion, and I don't know what you guys think about this. You know, we've talked about this defensive midfielder and needing that in order to unleash the likes of Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes. Now, for me, in my opinion, I think that he could be that guy. He could be that guy to break up play. His pressures, his ability to win the ball in tight areas, and his ability on the ball is really, really good. He's still young. He's still kind of untried, maybe at a higher level, and playing regularly at the higher level. And I think we'll see this season whether he's up to task at Mönchengladbach. But personally, I don't see the deal happening, but I see that he could be the type of player that we should be looking at to boost our midfield. I don't know, Daz, Richie, I don't know if you kind of want to add to that.
Yeah, I knew nothing about him until I watched a YouTube clip or two of him, and yeah, he's a little battler there in the middle of the park. And yeah, you're right, Pete. Him coming in would unleash Bruno. Bruno can't go too far forward these days with Shelby out. So he's great at breaking up play in the little clips I saw. So yeah, and I think he's like only 20 or something like that. He's very young anyway. So. Yeah, why not? If Eddie Howe and Dan Ashford think he's good enough, bring him in. The price is right, of course.
Yeah.
I think with Kone, Pete, is he's a different sort of player than what we've been looking for so far. But I think that this is due to the flexibility of what Bruno can bring around midfield, which we've talked about a few times, because he can play a lot of different roles in that midfield. It opens the option to different targets. You know, obviously the one that they've talked about more is getting more of the advanced creative centre midfield, you know, the Madison's, Paquetas and stuff like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, we can't go for someone like Kone who can do the sit and breaking up role and then move Bruno forward like he was towards the end of last season, because You look at his goal return at the end of last season, and his creativeness he had towards the end of the season. He was phenomenal. He proved that he can do it as well. So I think the reason why we're starting to get linked with people like names like Kone is because of that flexibility with Bruno. I think if they were dead set on Bruno playing that holding role and in front of the back four, you would probably see a lot more of the creative forward, attacking sort of players. When the window first opened.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's one of those players that we do need to keep an eye on because I think that he is the type of player that we will eventually, whether it's this summer, January, or moving forward, that we will look to sign. And look, I'll just add in another player whilst we're here. Another player that was linked to us as well, and there was a link here in terms of Edson Alvarez. That apparently there was a proposal turned down from Ajax, from Newcastle United, for Edson Alvarez. Good player, Mexican international at Ajax. They seem to be on a bit of a fire sale at the moment with a number of players on their way out. There's and I know obviously on the podcast, Graeme, you talked about you and the panel talked about the likes of Anthony potentially going to Manchester United. Do you see this one going through with so many players already leaving the club as it stands?
Yeah, it's probably the most expensive Ajax team ever assembled. The amount of players per shares went this week. I think it's about 7 or 8 or even more of them gone. Remarkable money that they brought in. I do know that there is Premier League interest in this guy. They like him. He's a class performer. I think Eddie is working out what to do with Bruno. I've tipped Bruno to make the PFA Team of the Year. I think he's got everything in him this season to be the best, one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. I like him where he is now. I like him in this. This is a role that De Jong and might play at United, where he picks up the ball from the back. He can go anywhere he wants. And that's why I think you're seeing more of the links with the Paquetas and the Madisons for him to find in that last third. I don't think Bruno's needs to be in the last third. I think he needs to be in the middle of the park. Bruno reminds me a lot of Vieira, and Petit, box to box, can do anything, can do everything. But I think Newcastle in midfield, if anything, are missing that spark, which Joelinton and Bruno have got in them. But I think they are playing that so well. They're covering every aspect of that midfield. I think they're missing that spark. And for me, I think they'd be better off with a more of a creative player. You've got Shelvey coming back. You've got Longstaff in there. I don't think that at the moment a defensive midfielder is the ideal for Newcastle. If they are to progress, if they are to progress and break these teams down, I think they do need that. That little Coutinho type player in the midfield, which again, Paqueta type Madison, as we said.
Interesting.
I have a few more questions. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Tampa Toon. Thanks for the donation, and thanks for loving the channel as well.
Yeah,
and the content.
Tampa Toon. Not seen them on for a while. Great to have you back in the chat. Hopefully you're enjoying the show, and hope to see you again soon. But thank you for your donation. Get your questions in as well, Tampa Toon. You've come up with some absolute belters in the past, so feel free to throw a question to Graeme.
Yeah, we've got one here, though. There was 2 linked together, and it's about if we're willing to let Miggy go, maybe it means we have Harrison lined up. And the other one is, do you think we'll try and get Harrison? Now, we have been trying to get him. Eddie seems to like him. Maybe there's a bit of a merry-go-round there with a few transfers. And I think that'll be the same for a lot of transfers as we get into that last 9 days. But your thoughts, Graeme, on Harrison to Newcastle?
Yeah, Newcastle want him with those interest there. I don't think they'll be able to get him out. Radrizzani was quite clear. And I think Leeds' good start to season won't have helped Newcastle's quest to get him. They've seen what he's done. And Dan James has been linked as well. I don't see it. They like to play with wingers. Siniestra, the ex-final players, come in, but he's a bit injury prone. James and Harrison are crucial to Leeds. They need a striker. I don't see Harrison leaving unless Newcastle get to a 40-50, that sort of region, he's not going.
Do you think he's worth that 40-50?
As we said, I think Harrison's a very interesting player. I think you are guaranteed a 7-8 every week. You're not going to see many 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 displays, but I think he supplies. I think he's a lot more consistent than a San Maximin and Almiron. I think, he tracks down that left-hand side. He offers a lot. He'll get you double figures every year. Yeah, he's not going to be a Lauren Robert Ginola type player, but he will deliver consistently every week, and you can see why he's an Eddie Howe type player. He'll hold down that left hand side with target for the next 5 years, so I can completely see why he likes him. I like him as well, and yeah, it's a really interesting him with someone like a Sam Maximin on the side be a great lineup, and I can see why Eddie likes him, but it's going to be really, really tough to get him out.
Boys, what do you think about the Harrison link? We look, Rich, I'll come to you. Were you surprised that the second bid went in and was rejected after we, weeks ago talked about that initial bid coming in? Do you see him as a viable option for Newcastle? Whether we sign him or not, what are your thoughts on him being that type of player that Eddie Howe's looking at?
I can see, I agree with Graeme said. He's an Eddie Howe type of player. He knows what he gets. My only concern is, and this is the thing I don't get about the bid, the apparent need is what we've said is, Newcastle shut the window quite well, going back to January and obviously now as well. As Graeme said, he's a left-sided midfielder. And I think, for me, the apparent need that we've got, as long as we can get ESM, being a bit more consistent and having a few more games like he did on Sunday, it's the right where we need the extra quality, in my opinion, because, I think Miggy would be a fantastic backup, going forward. We saw when he came off the other day, we brought Murphy on, and Murphy didn't bring anything to the game at all whatsoever. I believe that Fraser probably would have brought more, hadn't he? He hadn't got that groin strain in the warm-up. I do think he's got more of a future at the club than Murphy, but there's not that quality that they want going forward. So that the link towards Harrison, I don't think he's worth the price that Leeds are wanting. But I'm also shocked at the fact that he's coming to the discussion when the left side of the attack isn't the apparent need.
Yeah, I said for a while now. That's been my only question mark about the Harrison link, not because of the ability of the player, but the fact that he can only play down the left when we clearly need a right-sided attacking midfielder. So unless we're training up Harrison to play on the right-hand side, I think he could be deadly in that role if he learns to play on the right-hand side. But it's an interesting...
I think you'd more likely see Sam Maximin switching to the right, if anything. Harrison's completely all one side, and I think Sam Maximin could do that. He likes skipping on both feet, so I think that's a possibility.
To be fair, we did actually discuss that last week, didn't we, Pete? About possibly when they discussed Jack Harrison a few weeks ago, we said about possibly ASM play on the right. However, the one thing about that is it takes away the effect he had against Man City on Sunday, where he does like to get down line, but obviously he still has to cut back. But if you look at those drive and runs that he had, he tormented Walker, Stones, Diaz, cutting inside as well, and they were forced to foul. So
that's one game, Richie. Look, I was at the Forest game. He was appalling.
I was at the Forest game as well.
I was
great as well.
So infuriated with his lack of work ethic, and actually the Man City game made me even more angry because it is in there. He can do it, so you need to do it against Brighton and Forest, not just Man City when you're being watched.
Do you know what? I think all Newcastle fans would probably agree with you on that, Graeme. We all know how good and what a talent ASM is. It's more about the consistency, the output. And to be fair to both himself and Kieran Trippier in the interviews after the game, they both said that Trippier's been mentoring him and trying to say, look, you can do this. You want to go to the World Cup, and you said talk about winning Ballon d'Ors. Get this consistency right every single week. And it's something that, World Cup first, Ballon d'Ors is obviously, you're talking probably years before that, but the World Cup is a real possibility if you can deliver on a week-to-week basis.
That would be amazing if he got into the World Cup, the France World Cup.
You'd probably want another tattoo of him as well, wouldn't you, Daz?
At this stage, you know, there would be some turnaround.
I'd be flabbergasted. I think I bet wearing the Newcastle shirt. I bet wearing the Newcastle shirt on the show if he made the World Cup squad for France.
Okay, you heard it here first. Be careful. Be careful.
So we're gonna have a Joe Linton tattoo.
Look at that French squad. Look at that French squad.
We're gonna have a Joe Linton tattoo from Daz, who is made a bet that if Joe Linton makes the World Cup and they win the World Cup, Brazil,
Did I really?
he's gonna have a tattoo. Don't start adding
well, actually, to be fair, Daz, it originally started off being Newcastle's Player of the Season, which you won. That's what the bet started with. Then he added the World Cup squad to it, and then you said he had to win the World Cup. Then you said he had to be top goal.
Yeah.
We allowed you the first change, including the World Cup squad. So we'll let you off with the extra one, but you can't change any more goalposts.
We're getting off topic, but Martin made the bet for me at the start. So then I said, well, if I'm going to be involved in this bet, I'm going to add my own clauses to it.
Yeah, but you only added the World Cup clause. That was
I added 5 clauses. Anyway, Graeme will be back with us with the Newcastle jersey on before I have that tattoo, I think. But anyway,
I think it's more chance of Dan Burn going, to be honest. Who I love. By the way, Dan Burn, what performance he put in on the weekend, by the way, phenomenal. Although I did feel a bit sorry for Sven Botman. Come and play your first game and mark Erling Haaland. I think that was a little bit unfortunate.
He'll have a lot easier games over the course of the season.
Yeah, he will, yeah.
Okay, well, let's get back to players here. We're just throwing loads of names at you, Graeme, and hoping that something sticks. Alexander Isak. Are we having him? Will we get him in the back of the jersey?
If you could, it'd be phenomenal. Yeah. Again, he's a player who really likes, player the staff like. He was too expensive in the summer. Sociedad aren't dropping their asking price. You know, I think along with Calvert-Lewin, he'd be the ideal. Really, him and Calvert-Lewin, getting one of those two would be perfect solution. I think Isaac's it's a tough call. He's expensive. He really is. But he's the sort of player, like a Calvert-Lewin, who I think they should be bringing in to challenge Wilson. I really do. And that's because, as we know, Wilson's good enough. But if you get 20 games out of Callum Wilson, you're going to be happy.
Another question, right? And it's about 3 questions together. I'm going to combine them because do you think between now and the end of the window that we're going to end up, or hopefully we'll end up with players we've been linked to, or will it be someone totally off the radar that we haven't talked about at all? So like Tim is asking about a big surprise signing that's gone under the radar of the media. There's talk about Paqueta there as well. We've all talked about Paqueta, so that wouldn't be would be a surprise, but not under the radar. And then this one links into about do you think the owners are playing a game of brinksmanship and ready to do the deals on deadline day at the right price? So they kind of link them all together.
Yeah. In terms of surprise deal, I hope not, unless I'm hearing about it first.
That's okay.
Obviously, they've been offered a lot of players. People know what they want. A lot of deals going. I wouldn't rule it out. You know, this window, there's a lot of players out there, and we're not. You know, Newcastle will have inquired about 20, 30 players. It's a fact. That's what clubs do. You know, you don't just inquire about one to half a dozen players and hope to make half a dozen signings. That's not how it works, and we know that. In terms of Paqueta, yeah, it's 100% genuine. In terms of the fans thinking it's fan driven, it's simply not the case. Yeah, Newcastle like Paqueta. They've held talks. I think they can get him to a certain extent, and yeah, they do like him. And he's a top quality performer. Why wouldn't they? And he's in a position to like. He's got recommendations, obviously from Bruno coming out their ears, and people who did the Bruno deal are involved in Paqueta as well. So it is doable. It really it is, and we have to keep an eye on him. That's still one that is bubbling away. And in terms of the owners' brinksmanship, yeah, they've got a set fund. You know, as I mentioned, the FFP thing is real, and I've said this before. You know, Premier League are keeping a close eye on Newcastle. Is that right? No, of course it isn't. You know, they've allowed City, Chelsea. I'm not saying getting away with murder, but clamping down on sponsorship deals, it's not right. But Newcastle have been sensible. They're not going to give them a chance to come down on them. You know, and Newcastle are a team who do have Champions League aspirations within the next couple of years, so they are doing it the right way, and that's something they are looking at, you know. And so no, it's not brinksmanship. It's just good business to a certain extent, yeah. And that can be frustrating for teams. You know, why don't we just pay the extra 15 million for Diaby? Why don't we just do it? And yeah, if we're playing Football Manager, we do that. But unfortunately, in real life, it just isn't possible sometimes.
Yeah. Is that the truth, Graeme? That question that's just come up from Paul Shanks, Albert Lewin's agent.
I wish I was, you know. Yeah, I'd be. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind the 2.5% off his career earnings. That's for sure. Calvert-Lewin is an outstanding player. I don't understand from a team who've got Chris Wood on the playing staff. How can anyone have a go at Calvert-Lewin? I mean, I don't understand this. You know?
We'll swap. We'll definitely swap.
You've seen some under Rafi. You've seen your fair share of brutal strikers around, and Calvert-Lewin is in England. Actually, he would fit. I think I know why Eddie likes him. He would fit the system perfectly. If Wilson isn't playing, Calvert-Lewin comes in. I think it's easy to see why Eddie would want Calvert-Lewin.
Who sits on the bench though, in your opinion? But before you answer that, another question. You know, at this stage, because a few weeks ago we asked you, me and Martin asked you the question about how much you think he would command. Do you think after his recent injury, which raises more questions about him being fit, you know, on a regular basis, a little bit like Callum Wilson, how much would you value him?
Well, yeah, and I said that's the whole point of having someone in Newcastle getting to this point now where, and it's how I view you. You're not a mid-table Premier League team anymore. You know, that's why I know a lot of people think I'm overly harsh on Saint-Maximin and Almiron. If you want to be a top 6 team, they're not top 6 players in my opinion, and neither's Chris Wood. And that's why you got to enhance. It's all about the squad now. You know, you've got to really improve this squad. You know, the squad. You've got Longstaff and Dummett still in there. You know, there's a long way to go here, but Calvert-Lewin, England national, and unfortunately, the thing with these English strikers is the market is so high. We've seen Aston Villa pay, what did they pay, 35-40 million for Ollie Watkins from Brentford whilst he was still a Championship player. The striker market in England is so, you know, too high. It really is. You know, talk about inflation. This striker market, and for English players in general, the local. That's why we see teams shopping abroad so much. It's so inflated, this market in England, but. Yeah, Calvert-Lewin, I think the injuries means it's still unlikely, but it wouldn't surprise me to see his name come up again. And, you know, if Eddie Howe really likes the player, I don't think that's a bad sign for Newcastle. He hasn't gone wrong so far with many. But I think that's the sort of signing an Isaac, Calvert-Lewin. Rather than someone like an unknown quantity like a Ramos, I would want someone, a proven international striker, who can really push Callum Wilson. Make Callum Wilson worry about his starting shirt without injury concerns. You know, you need to push these players.
Maybe in January, you never know, because if Calvert-Lewin comes to Newcastle, we have Pete Graves bringing him on the show. If ASM goes to the World Cup with France, you'll be on with your Newcastle jersey. And if Brazil win the World Cup, Joelinton is player of the tournament and is in the squad, first of all, then I'll have a tattoo of Joelinton. So that'll be some show for people. So that's coming up in January. Stay tuned.
Not having it, Daz. Not having it. Not having it. Apparently, Rich, there's video evidence of this. Am I wrong?
Yeah. There's video evidence. Martin dug it up.
Edited. It didn't get.
No, not edited at all.
Graeme,
we might have to put it. Daz might have to put it as a short.
Yeah, go for it.
Why not?
I can delete it in a second.
Change the password, mate.
I'll hack it. Do we have another question? That's my job, isn't it?
Yeah, that's your job.
We've thrown you. That's what we've done. We've thrown you.
One from Fumby. We better let Fumby ask his question to you, Pete. How much would it take for you to let Miggy go?
For me, and there were some people on social media today saying, "Oh, if we got 15 million for him, I'd take him." I wouldn't take any less than 20 million, in my opinion, because if you've got someone like Everton that have just got the what 60 million,
60 million, yeah,
potentially for Anthony Gordon, I'd be saying 20 million. Why not? There's so many clubs that take advantage of those teams that have a whole load of money available to them, like they tried to do with us in January. Why not give it back? Why not give it back and say, hold on a second, if you're trying to take advantage of us, we'll take advantage of you. 20 million for Almiron. And getting towards the end of deadline day, are people going to... The likelihood is, we've seen it before with Everton, they panic, they pay over the odds. They may well do. I'm not saying that Almiron's worth 20 million, but what I'll say is that are they likely to accept the deal? If they're trying to get players through the door ASAP, they may well pay it. And if they do, and this goes back to the point that I mentioned to Graeme before during the show, is that if Everton are in a position to pay 20 million for Miguel Almiron and we let him go, can that 20 million go to an even better player that we can go there with a lot more money and go, right, we want the player, and we put that team under pressure to take their player off them? And that's why I would say that type of price. I don't know what you guys think.
That's fair enough, Beaver. I had a laugh at Jordan's tweet where if Everton meet his 60 million release clause, they can have him. That was a brilliant tweet. I love that. But Jordan,
is that £60 release clause?
Middlesbrough might go from then.
You know what?
I think Almiron. You know, we've, as I said to you guys before the show, we've got a guy called Isaiah Jones who Almiron can't even strap his boots. Almiron is at the best is a good championship player. He offers nothing. What's he got? 3 assists since he joined Newcastle. He's such, you guys, you got to think of yourselves. And I'll say this to you now. Think of yourselves as the top 6 teams. Almiron shouldn't even be on your bench. He's bang average.
That's fair enough for a top 6 team, but I was like you, Graeme. I was getting rid of him. I wanted him out the door.
Can you imagine Bruno in training turning up and watching him play? It must be what? I think you guys have got one of the biggest gaps now in talent between your worst player and your best player. I don't think there's a team in the Premier League with a bigger talent gap than Newcastle United.
I would agree with you. I think that's a fair point, but you got to remember, Graeme, as well, and you know it more than anybody, is that we've not even been taken over a year. We've only had 2 transfers.
Oh yeah, they didn't. I wouldn't have signed Almiron in the first place, but yeah, and that's not. To be fair to Almiron though, what I will give him, which what ASM doesn't do, Almiron, you don't come off a pitch. He comes off a pitch knowing he's put 100% in, which is all you can ask of some players. And I guess, not contradict myself, but if you could combine them two as a player, that'd be the idea, wouldn't it? Where you've got one with all the talent in the world and doesn't show it, and you got one who is limited talent-wise but puts all the effort in the world. So I can see it from both sides why you fall in love with someone like Anson Maximin, but he's so infuriating. And Almiron, yeah, and I say it's a slow burner, isn't it? And we're seeing that from this Newcastle owners now. You can't get rid of everyone at once. And even why we're seeing Longstaff stay, we're seeing Dummett stay. It is a work in progress, and I said, even I wouldn't sell Almiron this month. I would keep him because it's a long, hard season. Even if you got this other wide man, I would still keep him around till the January when the MLS is open. There's your perfect market for him.
Yeah, I was going to finish what I was going to say on Miggy. That I was like you. I wanted to get rid of him, but that was for the last 5 games, towards the end of last season. Then he just turned it around. It's like he was listening to the show and said, "Right, I'm going to show them," and he turned it around and he upped his game. And then he started okay. Like in City, he played well, and he was doing well for Paraguay as well. But now we're never going to get as a higher value for him while his stock is high.
Clearly, he's getting in the way of Elliot. And now the only thing, if it meant Elliot Anderson getting more game time, I'd have him out tomorrow. I think you've got a little world beater there. And then I said I went to the first game. I was surprised. I thought I thought Anderson might get the start on the right. I really did. Given how well he did pre-season, because we're saying that, mate, we know we can get out of him, and I just think he offers that X factor. I think Anderson. I think he will be a little world beater for you, and as soon as you get him in the team, the better for me.
Yeah, I'd be happy to sell Miggy, bring in a decent replacement of higher value, and keep Elliot Anderson as well. But give him a bit of a run as well, not just cup games, because he's better off out on loan if he's not getting a run.
There's room on Teesside down for him. Send him to us.
No, it wouldn't be a bad loan for Anderson.
No, it would, yeah. And I do know, guys, there's a lot of Championship clubs that like with Gallagher. For the Premier League clubs, there's Championship clubs queuing up for Elliot Anderson, queuing up.
Definitely. The one thing I'll just add very, very quickly, we've got over 400 in the chat. We've only got 112 thumbs up. Just go and click that thumb up right now. Everyone do it at the same time. Click that thumbs up. It means more people can see the show, more people can see the channel, and you're showing your support for Loaded Mag NUFC. And there's been so much support in the chat. So many fantastic questions tonight for Graeme. Really, really good questions. And Daz, you've rattled through so many of them. And thank you for all doing that. So just go and click that thumbs up right now. Makes a massive difference to us. If you're there, click that subscribe button as well if you're new to the channel. Come and join us. It is free. Last couple, Daz?
Okay. Let's go to one about the game tomorrow. And there's a good question here about from Jordy Waster 84. Do you expect a full fresh 11 for the game against Tranmere? Give the reserves and young'uns a run out. Anderson for sure, as we've just touched on there. So I can see it seem changing up. I can see Lascelles, our captain, starting for sure. And yeah, mixing it up a bit, resting a few. We definitely won't see Wilson. Wood will probably start. Yourselves, lads, what do you think?
I don't think you'll see. I'll be surprised if Chris Wood's playing because you can't afford to get him injured if Wilson's already out.
Interesting.
I'd be surprised. There's not much in backup as that forward line, and obviously he is a good backup. He's a good third choice. You just need that second choice, don't you? As backup, but yeah, I don't think Chris Wood would get much from playing against Tranmere.
Interesting.
Anyone that you think that's going to come, apart from obviously Elliot Anderson, who you've talked about a lot, you think will needs minutes more than anything? Do you think there's a player in there that will get minutes? Jacob Murphy, for example, come in. Maybe Fede Fernandez, who hasn't played at all this season. Do you think there'll be a player like that comes in, or do you think that Eddie Howe will go with as strong as 11 as he possibly can?
It's interesting, wasn't it? Is it Bondswell who's still around? I would expect him to.
Yeah.
Heard a lot of good things about him in the background. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because Newcastle now, we looked at it. I imagine you were in the top 10 betting for the League Cup, to be honest. It's probably the highest bet you've been in the betting since the Kevin Keegan days. But if that top 8, top 7, top 6 is on offer, how much do you put into the League Cup? It's an interesting dilemma that Eddie Howe has got now. But, if you're putting in the Dummets of this world, if you're putting in the Murphys and the Andersons, you should be getting, depending on the draw, you should be breezing past Tranmere as well. So I think you'll put the reserves in and then see how far you go. If you get into last 16, then there's something you got to go for, isn't it? But I think with Eddie and his own future, finishing high up in the league is a big thing. I know Eddie's just signed a new deal, a long-term deal, which is well-deserved. However, these Premier League owners, etc., he can't afford a drop-off in Premier League form. And if that means giving up on a cup competition sometimes. But, yeah, whoever you put out tomorrow should be good enough to beat Tranmere.
I would agree.
I've got the poll results as well. I'll just put them in the chat. Copy and paste. I'll read them out. So the question was, what club shall Joao Pedro play for from the 2nd of September? The poll results were, and there was 218 votes. Newcastle 90%, Watford 5%, and 4% for Everton. So 90% sure he's coming to Newcastle.
Yeah, I think that's about fair. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I said 70 before, so yeah, I agree. I think Joao Pedro, Newcastle, think it's going to get done. It's not. I said not quite done yet of the clubs coming in for him, which again will be coming from the agents. But yeah, obviously, clearly, Eddie wants him. A player wants to come, which is always a good start.
Exactly.
Oh, brilliant.
Anything else, lads, you want to cover?
No, just is there one last question to get through? We covered everything on there.
Let me see. Is this someone's asking? Is the draw on tomorrow night for the next round?
I believe it is. So yeah.
It'll probably be after the game.
So the fans are getting excited already. You see, because I said I haven't looked at the betting, but I'd imagine you're in the top 10 for the betting, which it'd be you need to start winning this trophy, guys. Remember, Middlesbrough's still the most successful team this century in the North East, so you need to get above us for that.
Oh,
fair point.
Get that in there.
Challenge.
Well,
while I still, guys, I've got to get in whilst I still can. It's not going to last for long. as you guys know, it's not going to last for long. So I've got to keep saying that whilst I can.
Good question here, and it's not Newcastle related, but Leicester related. Is there any truth in the rumor that Leicester owners are trying to sell up?
No, Leicester. If you look at their squad, the thing with Leicester is that people are wondering why they're doing what they're doing. They've got a lot. Their squad is massive, and they're all on good Premier League money. If you take a look at Leicester's squad, I think they had last time I looked, they had like nearly 10 internationals or something like that back there, all on good money. I know Newcastle got a big squad, but they're not all on these type of Premier League wages that Leicester are paying. And I think anyone who wonders about Leicester, go and have a look at their squad on paper. It is huge. And they're paying huge money to some of these players.
Yeah, I said the same. Earlier on, I was talking to a Leicester fan, and we obviously being a Leicester myself, speak to a lot of Leicester fans before. There hasn't been any talk that I've heard here about fans being worried about Leicester owners selling up, but it's the amount of wages that they're paying out for these players. And one of the players we know very, very well in Jose Perez, they signed him for £30 million, but gave him a huge increase in wages that he was on at Newcastle United. It's players like that, Boubacar Samari, who's been linked.
Yes, the new signings bit to Soumare and Patson Daka, who came in on huge, maybe unlucky. We thought Leicester had a wonderful transfer summer last season, getting Soumare and Daka, two of the most wanted players in Europe at the time. And they've come in on big money as well. You've got Sionchu, Evans, Fofana, and all the Belgian boys have got as well. Tielemans, Castagna. Yeah, exactly. It's full of. You think Leicester and they don't roll up, but when you look at their squad, they've got like 25 players who are on good Premier League money. Their wage packet is right up there with some of the top six.
Yeah. I agree with you, and that's their biggest problem is that their wages are so big, but they don't generate the type of money for the amount of wages that they're paying out. So
you have to hit as well, Pete. You have to hit. Soumare, I'm amazed that he has been the flop he has been, and Daka. To be fair, he hasn't really had a chance with Vardy and Perez up front and Iheanacho. But there, look, Perez, Vardy, Iheanacho, and Daka. There's four lads who are going to be on very good Premier League wages. With Vardy, we know, but the other three backups, huge money.
Yeah, definitely. Paul Shanks just put on there 3-0 Benfica. There is an assist in there for Goncalo Ramos. Just to kind of thanks for the old tee up, Daz. But again, is that going to add an extra million or two onto his deal? He's had a great start to this season, as Graeme talked about, but definitely one to keep an eye on.
I bet you if it's not Newcastle already, his name is going to be out there again tomorrow now with Benfica qualifying. Are Benfica going to sell up, and it'll be Wolves, Newcastle, Southampton, and God knows who else will be linked to him. So there's one for you tomorrow, Graeme.
There was talk, Daz, that actually there wasn't going to be any movement on him, and we talked about it tonight, until after this game. So could it be that a deal gets wrapped up in the next couple of days now? This ties out the door. The 3-0 up, they're going through. So is it a case of this is his farewell? Interesting.
And after the show, make sure you check out Graeme's article from earlier as well. We already retweeted it out as well, so take a look at that. That's probably it for tonight, is it, lads?
Yeah.
Bring it to a close. I do want to run through the sponsors, and I want to show Shy Barnes as well. Graeme, you're welcome to stay around if you wish.
Yeah, no problems, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. Let me go and give a shout out to first of all Shy Barnes, shybarnes.com, and I know I'll bring it around. I'll go through them first, and then I'll bring it back to Shy Barnes. So everyone knows what is available from shybarnes.com: the hats, the t-shirts, the hoodies. And I will show you the loaded merch in 1 second. So keep that in your thoughts. So, and also shout out to Pins and Prints and the range that Pins and Prints have available. And there'll be new range coming up soon. And Machine House. I'm not going to forget the name today. Machine House and the range that Marty has there, and the hoods and the t-shirts. And look out for the new range coming soon. Now, give me 1 second, and I'll try and share my screen. 1 second. Usually I have this lined up, so here we go. Boom, and make it a bit bigger. Okay, so if you go to the shybarnes.com website and you click on all, you can see the t-shirts, hoodies, hats that Simon has an offer there. If you also click on the loaded Mag NUFC, you will get into the loaded range. But there's something new in there, and that's why I'm showing this. You already have the loaded t-shirt, and the prices here are in euro because I live in Ireland. So the loaded t-shirt, cup, water bottle, and another cup, an enamel cup. Also, there's a new t-shirt, and the new t-shirt is Away Days. Pete, say the line, Pete. Say the line.
We do love playing away.
Nice one. And that is available in a range of different colors. So like the other loaded t-shirt. So you have the Way Days t-shirt and you have a loaded Mag NUFC t-shirt. So there, that is the new piece of merchandise that Simon has dropped onto the website though. So check that out in a range of different colors. It's pretty changing up here. Yeah. So yeah, check that out when you get a chance. And if you're interested,
love that Brazilian style Away Days top.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Do you know what, Pete? I was talking to Simon about this earlier. I said it was Brazilian.
Brazilian. I like it.
I like that now. Maybe I'll go for one of them. Cool. So that's check that out, and of course, half the profits from this goes towards the NUFC Foundation. So check that out if you wish. That is it from the sponsors. So then also what's coming up. So if you've missed it, as we said already, check out the Joao Pedro show from last night. And we have the League Cup tomorrow, so we're going to be watching that. There's probably be no show tomorrow unless there's another signing. But we will be back on Thursday night for another fully loaded transfer show. We're doubled up this week, so we're back on Thursday at 8. And I see, thanks Richie, you have the codes floating across the bottom of the screen, which I forgot as well. So if you want 10% off anything from Shy Barnes, Machine House, or Pins and Prints, 10% discount, use the code loaded mag, and that will get you 10% off. So yeah, that's coming up on Thursday, and then on Friday we have Away Days with the Wolves Fancast. So that's on Friday.
If anyone saw the Battleground Europe with the little Dan from Wolves Fancast, you'll want to tune in for that, because he's a top guy that doesn't hold back at any point as well. So I'm sure it'll be a very, very interesting chat in what could be a big game for both clubs. Newcastle obviously need to build on the great result against Man City, and Wolves need to continue building after a little bit of a slow start. So yeah, going to be an interesting one for sure.
Playing well, Wolves at the minute. They were very, very good at Tottenham in the first 25 minutes. Neves ran that show.
Won't be easy. Be a
good game. Yeah, and it's live as well at the weekend, so that's another one to look forward to. Loads of live games. It's great. Great being popular again. That's it. So thanks to Graeme for joining us and taking an hour and a half out of his evening to join us and give us the latest. Yeah, there's a lot to happen in the next 9 days. So hang on to your seats. Night, everyone.
Night.
See you later.
Take care, guys.
Bye. Wrong one. Where is he? Eddie. How?
Hey.